tune that's considered one of the greatest in our rock and roll songbook. And it's the work of Robbie Robertson and the band. And although the band disbanded long ago, Robertson is still very much with us and talking with Anthony Mason for the record.
That's it.
It's been a long time since Robbie Robertson played one of his best-known songs. The night they drove Old Dixie down.
Yeah, I barely remember it. I haven't played it since the last waltz.
No, really?
Yeah.
That was 40 years ago, 1976, when Robertson played his last gig with the band at the Last Waltz, rock's most famous farewell concert.
We played at Woodstock, Watkins Glen. There was 650,000 people. We had done it all.
You were done.
I was. So yeah, these walls could talk.
And for the most part, Robertson hasn't looked back. But in his new memoir, Testimony, the band's principal songwriter returns to the time he was part of a revolution in music. Raised in Toronto, Robertson, who's half Mohawk Indian and half Jewish, was 10 when he started playing guitar.
You had a job as a guitarist by the time you were 16.
I was playing on the road full time, making a living, and playing the Chitlin circuit down south.
He joined the band of Arkansas rockabilly singer Ronnie Hawkins, where he'd meet a young drummer named Levon Helm.
You and Levon clicked right away.
Yeah, every bone in his body was musical, and he just lit up the room. So him and I just became like brothers.
One by one, Garth Hudson, Richard Manuel, and Rick Danko also joined the group. And in 1964, they split off from Hawkins to form their own band, Levon and the Hawks. They'd make their way to New York, where Robertson encountered a young folk singer, Bob Dylan.
We went by the studio when he was recording Like a Rolling Stone. Just happened to drop in. And he played this song, and I thought, wow, I don't think I've heard anything quite like this before.
Dylan needed a backing band and hired the Hawks. He was switching from acoustic guitar to a new electric sound. It was a musical earthquake that angered his audience. In the documentary No Direction Home, Dylan's folk fans called him a traitor.
I don't believe you. It was so ugly every night.
And some blamed the new band.
What are you thinking when you hear that?
I wasn't sure they were wrong, but it hurt, too.
But Bob stayed with you.
Bob didn't budge. And I thought, he's either right or crazy.
But that must have meant a lot.
It meant a lot. And by then, we were back to back in this thing.
Oh, boom, God, it's booming. I can't stand it.
Dylan would say it was like putting our heads in the lion's mouth.
There was something deep in his soul that was saying, I'm right and you're wrong.
In 1967, after Dylan retreated to Woodstock, the band joined him, renting a small house nearby and turning the basement into a studio. They called the place Big Pink.
And it was like Valhalla, you know. We're in our own world. Mm-hmm. We're making music that nobody is supposed to ever hear.
Dylan and the band would record more than 100 songs in the basement.
It's an incredibly productive period.
Out of the basement tapes comes music from Big Pink. Then Bob, within weeks, records John Wesley Harding. There couldn't have been more music in the air.
Robertson would write perhaps his best-known song then, after noticing the stamp on his Martin guitar.
I was looking inside the guitar, and I saw Nazareth, and I thought, wow, it's a beautiful sound. Pulled into Nazareth. I was feeling about 1/2 dead, and I thought, wow, I'm onto something here.
That song, The Wait, would appear on Music from Big Pink, their groundbreaking debut album. They also debuted their new name.
We got so used to everybody calling us the band all the time that we're playing with Bob.
You're just the band.
We're the band.
For 8 years, the band would be one of rock's most influential groups. When did you come to LA?
In the fall of 1973.
But by the mid-70s, when Robertson had resettled in Los Angeles, drugs were causing friction in the band.
It came to a place, and then I said, why don't we bring this episode to a conclusion?
Right.
A beautiful musical conclusion.
On Thanksgiving Day in 1976, they played their final concert. Dylan, Clapton, and Joni Mitchell all showed up for The Last Waltz, which was filmed by Martin Scorsese.
Marty had this made for me.
Robertson has since collaborated with Scorsese on the music for 6 films. But the dissolution of the band would leave a bitter taste, particularly with drummer Levon Helm, who saw The Last Waltz as Robertson's attempt to celebrate himself.
You didn't want the band to break up, did you?
No, of course not. That don't make sense. Have a big going out of business concert.
In a 2007 interview, 5 years before his death, Levon's bitterness was still raw.
Is that rift ever going to heal?
I doubt it. Not as long as he wants to claim everything that the band ever made, you know.
Did you guys try to patch things up ever down the road?
As much as I loved him and admired his extraordinary musical talent, I could not do the bitterness anymore. But when they called me and said, he's in the hospital and he's dying, I went right to the hospital and I sat with him and I held his hand and I sat there and thought about the beautiful things that we had been through together, and I was happy for that moment to kind of wash away any dark clouds.
You put the load right on me.